Once you become the personal representative for an estate, there are many big decisions that have to be made. I think the one that comes up the most often in the early part of the process is whether or not you should hire an attorney to help you through probate. Now, in this video, I'll briefly discuss a few of the reasons why you may or may not want to hire an attorney, and hopefully this will help you in this decision process. But I want to be clear right at the start that you are not required to hire counsel. Just like when you've got the right to represent yourself during a jury trial, you also have that right when administering an estate. But what many executors don't fully grasp is that they are a fiduciary to the estate, and they've got a legal obligation to act in the best interest of both the estate and every beneficiary or heir. So if a mistake is made, there are real-life consequences, such as broken relationships and even legal liability. Now, all that being said, I do come across families dealing with very small estates on a regular basis, and they really don't need to hire an attorney. But the decision's up to you, and hopefully I'll provide a bit of food for thought as you mull over this decision. So let's go ahead and look at the pros and cons of employing an attorney so you've got a better understanding of what they do on your behalf. So pro number one is they help the process move faster. Now they do this by organizing team members, filing paperwork at the correct time, and prompting you for the needed information to do so. They also protect you from doing things that might impede the process, which otherwise could result in further court time and/or additional holding costs if you've got real estate, the likes of which could easily make up for the price of their services. Pro number two is they keep you out of trouble. Now, your role as a fiduciary is not to be taken lightly, and you will be held to a legal standard. So probate attorneys understand where the common pitfalls lie, and they provide counsel to keep you out of trouble, which could severely lengthen the probate process. So once again, they're potentially saving you money there. So that takes us to pro number three, they save you money. Now I know I've already said this twice now, but a good probate attorney can negotiate on your behalf to reduce the debts of the estate by up to 50%. This could even result in a net positive when hiring a legal professional. Furthermore, an attorney with experience has processes and systems in place to maximize efficiency and get probate cases closed faster. I know you've heard the idiom, time is money, and that's certainly true in this process. And the more money you can serve as the fiduciary, the better off the entire family is. Pro number four is they reduce stress. Now, just like most of you, I'm not a legal professional. And when I'm faced with any legal process, I get intimidated. So as good as our legal system is or is not, depending on who you speak with, we know that it's filled with loopholes and confusing language. Now that legalese that they use, so to speak, is meant to remove ambiguity. But for those of us who don't use these terms on a regular basis, it really might as well be a foreign language. When I have an experienced attorney working on my behalf, not only did they take on the job of navigating the legal process, but I rest easier because I'm not wondering if I maybe interpreted something incorrectly or I missed a loophole that I could have taken advantage of. The odds are, if you're going in the wrong direction, nobody's going to stop you and tell you to take a different course. So in summary, they absorb the legal liability I mentioned earlier, and honestly, this really is one of the most compelling reasons that you should hire counsel, in my opinion. So what are the cons to hiring an attorney? Really, there's only one glaring con, and that's that attorneys cost money. I know you're trying to save money, and you may be dealing with an estate that has very little equity or is insolvent. But under normal circumstances, the executor does not incur personal financial responsibility for the debts of the deceased. So what does that mean? Well, to me, it's almost a free play to hire the professionals you need to get probate done quickly, efficiently, and legally. If you don't know already, acting as an estate personal representative is just exhausting, and it takes up a tremendous amount of your time and energy. By going it alone just to save $3,000 or whatever the fee for various professionals adds up to, it'll result in a disproportionate expenditure of your time and attention. You know, professionals, they spend their time studying and working in specialized fields. We've all got things that we're experts at. Now just think about something that you have expertise in. and how much better and faster you are now than when you began. It's the same concept here. So if you decided to forego an attorney and do everything yourself, how much more time are you spending doing it on your own? 40 hours, 50, 60, I mean, they can just keep piling up. And how much do you make in a 40-hour work week? Would you trade that pay to save an attorney fee so there are a few $1,000s extra to distribute to the heirs? I'm not saying never to handle this all on your own. Everyone has their own unique set of skills and circumstances, so it might make sense, but I want to at least give you a different perspective if you haven't yet placed value on your time and mental state. Okay, so now that I've gone over the pros and cons of hiring counsel, I'll touch on some cues that may point you to hiring an attorney and those that may allude to that not really being necessary. So, one, if the estate has more debts than assets, an attorney is not only highly recommended, but will literally cost you nothing. That's because their fee is included in the process of estate administration. Since you will not be personally liable for these debts, and there wouldn't be an inheritance anyway, it only makes sense to hire an attorney. Who wouldn't want to take advantage of that? I often come across personal representatives who think that if the estate can't afford it, they can't afford it, and this is untrue. I also want to make an important point here that you'll want to be sure to understand. If you settle debts out of order, you may be liable for some of the debts. So on one hand, you can basically hire an attorney that will make sure this doesn't happen for no out-of-pocket costs. Or you can save money that will just go to the creditors, only to incur possible liability if you do it wrong. That is an endorsement for hiring counsel in this scenario, if I ever saw one. Another scenario is, as hard as it may be emotionally, if you're going through the probate process after losing a spouse, the process is usually a lot simpler from a legal standpoint. If you're in a reasonable place financially and don't have a tremendous amount of debt, you can usually get by without an attorney, so long as you remain in a good state of mind and your grief doesn't interfere with your diligence. Last scenario is if you're administering a small estate for an unmarried child, meaning under $50,000 in Virginia, you may not need to hire counsel. However, there may be things that arise, such as getting a court order to release cell phone data, for instance. And in that scenario, an attorney is going to be really helpful. Now, we can continue with this list. It can go on because every single estate is different. You might have identical estates with one small difference that could make the decision to hire an attorney starkly different. My advice is to always, at a minimum, have an initial conversation. Creditors can be threatening and tenacious, but they don't practice law or even honesty in many situations. A consultation with an experienced attorney in your area will illuminate glaring issues or put you at ease when deciding to do it all yourself. When looking for an attorney, most people just use Google or ask a friend who they recommend. However, if you're just going with your coworker's friend or the first name that shows up on Google, you're likely not getting the best bang for your buck, so to speak. The search result at the top of the Google page has often paid for that spot. And guess who those costs trickle down to? That's right. Indirectly, they often go to you via higher fees and rates. And your coworker's recommendation usually won't be for a probate specialist. You want a lawyer who specializes in probate, estate planning, and death taxation. If they have a background in accounting, that's an added bonus. So do your due diligence on the front end of the search to make the best choice. You can do an internet search for local attorneys and reviews. The results are going to be mixed and fractured, just so you know. Unfortunately, you won't likely find a list of all the local probate attorneys and their reviews. Maybe Amazon needs to create something like that. But just kidding on that. Look, the best way to go about finding the right attorney for the job is, in my opinion, by asking the right people. If you have a family friend who is an attorney, ask them who they recommend. But make sure to reiterate that it needs to be someone who specializes in probate. Another person I would ask is a realtor, preferably one who also specializes in probate. As realtors, we are in contact with local attorneys when selling the real estate, and we can provide insight to those who are organized, efficient, and communicate well. These are all traits you want in the attorney you choose, so leveraging our experience will ensure you have better odds of getting a great probate lawyer. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you decide you need an attorney or just want to explore the possibility through an initial consultation, I'm happy to discuss your situation and put you in touch with someone with the necessary experience who can help. I've dedicated my career to helping families in your situation, and as part of that, I've gotten to know many probate estate planning attorneys in Northern Virginia, DC, and Maryland area. Give me a call and we'll discuss your situation, and I'll connect you with the attorney I think can best serve your family.